There is a weight to the universe that most people never feel. It isn't the existential weight of a soul or the burden of command. It is the physical, crushing pressure of 10 vertical kilometers of salt water. On the planet Aquatica-Prime, that weight is the only law. The surface is a deceptive mirror of calm blue, but beneath the waves lies a hatal zone so deep and so hostile that the Federation declared the entire world a biohazard exclusion zone. They didn't do it to protect the ecosystem. They did it to protect the sanity of anyone foolish enough to peer into the dark. Aquatica-Prime is home to the abyssal maws, creatures that haven't changed in 100 million years because they already reached the pinnacle of being a nightmare. They are leviathans of muscle and bioluminescence, monsters that eat submarines like they're metal-canned sardines. But the Federation had a problem. The freighter Goliath's tier had gone down in the Midnight Trench, carrying a prototype singularity core that could jumpstart a dying star. If the core ruptured at that depth, the entire sector would become a hole in the map. They needed the best. They needed the 9th Deep Salvage Iron Lungs. I am Commander Silas Vance, and I've spent more of my life under pressure than I have in the open air. The Iron Lung Class 4 is not a submarine. It is a 400-ton suit of powered armor designed to walk on the seafloor where the pressure is 8,000 pounds per square inch. It doesn't swim, it tramples. It doesn't hide, it endures. We dropped from the orbital carrier in specialized atmospheric entry pods that hissed into the boiling surf of Aquatica-Prime like hot needles into silk. The descent was a 4-hour plunge through the layers of hell. First, the photic zone, where the sunlight fades into a sickly green. Then the twilight zone, where the shadows start to watch you back. By the time we hit the midnight zone, the only thing in the universe was the hum of my reactor and the sound of my own breathing, echoing inside a helmet made of 5-inch thick reinforced quartz. Status check, Iron Lungs, I signaled, my voice vibrating through the sonar comms. Beside me, through the thick silt of the descent, I saw the floodlights of my squad. Jax and Elena were in their rigs, looking like rusted, mechanical titans falling through a void. Pressure at 6,000 decibars. Structural integrity holding at 98%. We are entering the Moss territory. If you see a light in the dark that isn't mine, you kill it. Jax's laughter was a low rumble over the link. Copy that, boss. I've always wanted to go fishing with a hydraulic claw. The light hit the bottom of the Midnight Trench 10 minutes later. The seafloor wasn't sand, it was a bone-white field of crushed shells and the silicate remains of things that had died long before humans learned to walk upright. The Goliath's tier was visible a half-kilometer away, its hull snapped like a dry twig across a jagged obsidian ridge. The radiation alarms in my HUD began to flicker a dull, rhythmic orange. The singularity core was leaking. We had less than 2 hours before the containment failed. We moved forward, the heavy mechanical legs of the Iron Lungs kicking up massive clouds of white silt with every step. The movement was slow, deliberate, a dance with gravity that didn't want us there. I've got movement, Elena's voice was sharp, cutting through the static. Sonar ping at 4 o'clock. Something big. It's moving fast for its size. I swung my floodlights toward the darkness. For a second, there was nothing but the dancing particles of marine snow. Then I saw it. A single, massive red eye, the size of a garage door, blinked in the darkness. It was followed by another and another. A constellation of bioluminescent hunger was swirling around us. The abyssal maw didn't roar. You can't roar at 10 kilometers down. Instead, it released a low-frequency sonic pulse that hit my suit like a physical blow, making the quartz visor rattle in its housing. The creature was a mass of shifting, translucent flesh and armored plating, easily 80 meters long. It had tentacles thick enough to crush a cruiser and a beak that could shear through a tank. It moved with a terrifying liquid grace, circling us just outside the reach of our lights. Defensive circle. I commanded. We backed toward the wreckage of the freighter, our massive hydraulic arms raised. I activated my primary weapon, the voltaic harpoon. A 3-meter spike of solid tungsten hummed to life, glowing with an electric charge that turned the water around it to steam. The first attack came from the shadows above. A tentacle slammed into Jax's rig, the force of the impact sending his 400-ton mech sliding 5 meters back through the silt. I'm okay. I'm okay. Jax grunted, his servos whining as he fought to stay upright. The maw lunged, its massive beak snapping just inches from Elena's cockpit. She responded with her industrial cutting torch, a blade of blue-white plasma that hissed into the creature's side. The maw's blood, a thick, glowing ichor, spilled into the water, attracting the smaller scavengers of the deep. But the maw didn't retreat. It was the apex predator of this world, and we were just noisy, metallic intruders. Came at me next. I saw the wall of flesh rushing through the dark and fired. The voltaic harpoon screamed through the water, tethered by a carbon fiber cable. It buried itself deep into the creature's central mass, delivering a 10 million volt shock directly into its nervous system. The maw spasmed, its tentacles thrashing wildly, one of them catching me across the chest and pinning me against the obsidian ridge. My HUD flashed red. Armor integrity, 74%. Pressure leak detected in left leg. Boss. Jax shouted. He didn't wait. He charged the beast, using the massive, motorized drills on his mech's shoulders to tear into the creature's flank. The water became a chaotic storm of silt, blood, and bubbles. We weren't fighting like soldiers, we were fighting like industrial machines. We were the feral frontier in its purest form, man and machine versus a nature that never intended for us to exist. I used my suit's emergency thrusters to kick away from the ridge, the hydraulic servos in my arm screaming as I punched the maw directly in its primary eye. The creature recoiled, its bioluminescence flickering as its brain tried to process the trauma. Elena, get the core. Jax and I will hold the line. I shouted. Elena didn't hesitate. She used her suit's precision manipulators to reach into the snapped hull of the Goliath's tier, pulling out the glowing, pulsating singularity core. It looked like a miniature star trapped in a cage of glass. Got it? We need to move. The containment is at 5%. We began the ascent, but the maw wasn't finished. It was wounded, bleeding, and blinded in one eye, but it was driven by a primordial rage. It rose from the trench like a vengeful mountain, its tentacles wrapping around the legs of our suits, trying to drag us back down into the crushing dark. It's not letting go, Jax yelled. His suit was being pulled deeper, the metal groaning under the combined pressure of the depth and the creature's strength. Go. Take the core. I'll detonate my reactor. Negative, Jax. I roared. I looked at the electric harpoon, still embedded in the beast. I overloaded the battery in my suit, feeding every ounce of energy into the cable. Elena, Jax, brace for acoustic shock. I flipped the final discharge switch. The underwater explosion wasn't made of fire, it was a massive, expanding bubble of superheated steam and electrical arcs. The maw didn't just let go, its nervous system was completely fried, its body going limp as the shockwave sent us tumbling upward. We breached the surface 3 hours later, the pod buoys bobbing in the calm blue waters of Aquatica-Prime. The transition from the crushing dark to the open air felt like being reborn. As the retrieval ship hovered above us, I looked down at the water. Somewhere miles below, the maw was still drifting in the dark, a broken king in a silent kingdom. We had the core. We had the mission. And we had proven once again that there is no depth deep enough to hide from a human with a wrench and a grudge. Humanity had proven the ultimate abyssal truth. You can be a leviathan of the deep, a creature of myth and terror, but you are still made of meat. And we are made of steel, spite, and the refusal to stay down. The abyssal maw thought it was the top of the food chain, but it forgot that humans don't just swim in the ocean. We conquer it. This has been Apex Sci-Fi. The deeper you go, the harder we bite. That if you enjoyed this hunt in the crushing dark, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep-sea horror. Comment below. What is the most terrifying thing you've seen in a deep ocean documentary? Subscribe for the next story in the Feral Frontier saga, the Shadow Nebula. The core is safe. The pressure is gone.